There were several questions that aren't going to be asked tonight, and we're going to stick around. You can ask those questions. But one of the questions was, can we give you a number to say this is a commercial and this is a non-commercial? And the answer is no, because the courts aren't allowing us to do that right now. And so I think that tailors into that. And another question, if you don't mind, Hal, this is a question probably I'm really surprised it hasn't come up yet. The question is doesn't the United States Constitution trump the state constitution, and why are you not enforcing the federal law? Well, the federal courts have said Proposition 215 on its face is legal. A federal officer enforces federal law. A state or local officer enforces state and local laws. And I don't have the legal right to go out and enforce federal laws right now, nor does a federal officer have the right to come into Mendocino County and enforce state and local laws unless he's been deputized, which we do have one officer in the county, a federal officer who works in a remote area who asked to be deputized, and I've deputized him. So I know it's somewhat confusing, but I would ask you to think back of civics and of the way our country is set up. And the way our country is set up is we have 50 states, and we have one government, and one federal government, and federal government can't dictate everything to the states, and because the voters passed Prop 215, we are where we are, and it's caused angst, confusion, and a great deal of frustration, not just for people who are trying to comply with the law, but a huge amount of frustration for law enforcement officers who have sworn to uphold the Constitution, and we don't know where to go from here. So your patience is appreciated, and I just had to throw that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. To the environmental group, I believe, can we compare, or can you make any statements about comparing the environmental impact of marijuana grows to, either large or small, to that of meth labs? And we have different kinds of chemicals, different kinds of territories. Jim Harrison.
Generally, we're looking at the difference between hydrocarbon fuels, which are a lot of hydrocarbon fuels used in manufacture of meth, but we don't have the far end of the pH scale that you see in all the meth labs. You got bases and acids. I mean, both ends of the pH scale just completely covered, 14 to 0 all the time, and those acids and bases are very detrimental to the environment, especially the water. I would say that the environmental impact is much greater with the meth than it is with the marijuana. However, tell that to a fish, he dies at 53 parts per million diesel in the water, so he's just as dead.
Okay, we have time for a final question. And I guess this comes back to law enforcement again, and it's a multi-part question. Looking for priorities here. Is it your priority, and this could be to either side of law enforcement here, is it your priority to arrest and prosecute growers between 25 and 50 plants, 50 and 100 plants, more, versus meth labs or sale of other drugs and alcohol to minors? Complex question.
I'll jump on that, Hal, because I don't think that there's any question. A meth lab has to be the top priority of law enforcement and of the society to rid our community. And if anybody thinks that we're bypassing the investigation of methamphetamine labs for the sole purpose of going after marijuana grows, I'm going to tell you you're incredibly wrong and mistaken. A meth lab is a high priority for the sheriff's office, and it will remain a high priority. And we want everyone to know that a meth lab causes substantial damage to our community. But please, don't just say, well, then if we don't have meth labs, we don't have anything to do, because the commercial grows. And I'm not going to even go to the numbers there, because if you haven't understood where we're telling you where the Kelly case is going by now, please get with me after and I'll explain it again. There are no numbers that we're going to be able to substantiate right now until the California Supreme Court gives us clear direction. But the commercial labs, the commercial grows who are doing things and using things to grow marijuana that they don't care about our county, they'll also continue to be a priority of our county, or the sheriff's office. And now think of this, 257,000 plants as of 2 days ago. That's how many we've taken. Well, if you divide that by 25, I believe you get upwards into 10,000 marijuana grows that we'd go to, and that's not the case. We've only gone to 181. And so we're going to grows that have hundreds of plants. And sure, there might be a grow we go to that has 50 plants and we eradicate it, but if they're 14 foot tall because they're using super steroids to get these plants going, we're going to do an investigation. And you pay us a very fair salary to do an investigation. And believe me, when the investigation's over, we'll stand in front of the judge and we'll tell him what the truth is, and we'll let the judge make a determination. But we're walking a fine line of making sure that we respect the rights of legitimate medical marijuana growers and patients, but do what the law says we're going to do under 11358 and 11359 of the Health and Safety Code of commercial grows of marijuana.
Thank you, Sheriff. Madam District, did you have something else? Yes.
When you're talking about priorities, once it gets to my office, really and truly, we're having very few meth cases, and the task force has commercial marijuana, and I believe in the last month there were like 2 meth cases, one with about $670 worth of meth, and one other one that was pretty small. Whereas when you look at what's happening with the marijuana, it's anything from a very small amount to what I consider to be astronomical sums. So for priorities, obviously you're going to do your meth labs first. I agree 100%, but we haven't been there haven't been the